The government's budget continues to come under scrutiny. That's the story we are tracking in your Barbados Today evening update for Tuesday, June the 12th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Declaring he did not come to Parliament merely to oppose for the sake of politics, Opposition leader Joseph Atherley says there's no mistaking the painful path ahead for Barbadians. Delivering his reply to the $1.2 billion package delivered by Prime Minister Mia Mottley yesterday, he sounded the warning that with the announced tax measures, the Barbados Labour Party government runs the risk of falling into the same trap as the former Freundel Stewart administration, which burdened Barbadians with onerous taxes that crippled economic activity. Questioning whether the government's program was truly homegrown or whether the mini-budget was a reflection of a pending International Monetary Fund adjustment program, Atherley warned the budget could be counterproductive and Barbados must not bear pain for nothing.
And at a time when our earning capacity is constrained, our capacity to borrow is also constrained, at a time when we're about to meet around the table with the IMF, at a time when the Barbadian community was already reeling from excessive taxation. I've simply come to ask the questions which would arise in any reasonable person's mind. Have we exercised the necessary caution? Did we do this for the right motives? Did we think this through? And at the end of the day, after we have gone through all of this pain, what will there be to show that we have not suffered in vain?
Atherley also took issue with the government's decision to reprofile and suspend its debt payments, warning that the country's reputation was under threat. And while he lauded the decision to scrap the National Social Responsibility Levy, he also questioned the BLP's decision to turn to the IMF, suggesting there were other alternatives.
Quite noticeably, the past administration did not achieve the anticipated gains from the NSRL. So clearly, it was counterproductive to the consumer impulse to spend and to therefore stimulate the economy. But the net effect of these new impositions, the raft of impositions alternative to the NSRL, the net effect of these new impositions is likely also to be reflected in a negative impact on economic activity going forward.
As Atherley took his seat, Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, stood in reply. He said the government is determined to set the country back on its feet, while conceding that hard decisions had to be taken to rescue the economy. He insisted that Barbadians would benefit in the long run.
The road ahead is going to be challenging. And once we did not create the problem, we can fix it. But the people of this country must be brought along that path to recovery. And the measures outlined yesterday, Mr. Speaker, was trying to maintain a balance within this Barbados economy. We know that things are tough for people in this country. We know that. We know that. But confidence, Mr. Speaker, is the key.
Meanwhile, the Democratic Labour Party is rubbishing suggestions from the Barbados Labour Party administration that it drained the national coffers and left the economy in ruins. At a press conference today to discuss yesterday's budget, former Commerce Minister Donville Innes insisted this could not be the case, as he raised questions about the size of the new administration.
What is very clear, though, is that there was certainly enough money left in the Treasury to hire 26 plus 2 cabinet ministers. We know what the salaries are and allowances of cabinet ministers. I asked the question, what is Prime Minister Mottley paying Avinash Prasad? What's she paying and what is his job? What is being paid to the former Deputy Prime Minister Billy Miller and what is her job? And what is being paid to Clyde Maskell, and what is his job? Please come and tell the country of Barbados that you say have been so broke. What is it costing you to hire these 3 consultants?
At the same time, former Agriculture Minister Dr. David Estwick knocked the administration for increasing taxation on the backs of Barbadians. Describing the government's approach as economic foolishness, he warned that the country will fail to meet the targets outlined.
You would have actually gone ahead with a corporation tax increase, airline tax and tourism development tax increase, fuel tax increase, healthcare costs increase, income tax increase, water increase, accommodation in the tourism sector tax increase, online transaction costs increase, commercial vehicles. So I try to understand how that marries and works with a declining economy, a shrinking revenue base, etc. So I go to the fact that if that is happening, I cannot see how you're going to achieve any of those targets. They cannot be achieved.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Welcome back with news from the region now. Some of Trinidad and Tobago's major religious groups say that homosexuality cannot be allowed to flourish as it is contributing to the degradation of the society. They're calling on the government to amend the marriage law to ensure that right can only be accessed by a biological man or woman. More in this report from CNC3 Television.
It was described as an historic gathering. Under the roof of the Archbishop's house, some of the leaders of this country's most followed religious bodies decided it was time for religion to unite and have its say because
we believe that our society and the fabric of Trinidad and Tobago as we know it is at risk.
And that threat, they say, is coming from the LGBTQI community. They believe the institution of marriage is under attack, an arrangement that they believe should be between a biological man and woman.
If the good Lord wanted to have this happening, and say Adam and Steve, not Adam and Eve.
And there should be no protection based on sexual orientation in the Equal Opportunities Act. Now, the group believes that marriage is a sacred, unique and divine arrangement that is central to the welfare of society. This, they believe, undermines that.
As civilization moves away from its moral foundations, civilization moves into murky and more murky waters where it no longer even understands what truth is.
And they believe if we move away from the traditional family values, then criminality will continue.
And on the international front, U.S. President Donald Trump made a stunning concession to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Tuesday about halting military exercises, pulling a surprise at a summit that baffled allies, military officials, and lawmakers from his own Republican Party. We get the details in this report from Reuters Television.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un began with a firm handshake and ended talks with a broad pledge for peace. History was made in Singapore on Tuesday, where Trump finally met with the North Korean leader.
A lot of progress, really very positive. I think better than anybody could have expected.
The two leaders were cautious at first, smiling for the cameras, but soon Trump said the two had a very special bond. On the other hand, Kim was more quiet, but he was seen beaming at some points and said the world would see a major change. Later, both sides pledged to complete the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We are also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Emmanuel Joseph. Have a fantastic evening.